All right, never a dull moment up in Cleveland. Of course, you got the Cavs opening up the preseason tonight. Guardian season just came to an end less than a week ago. Former Cavalier LeBron James had us all on pins and needles, and now he's just going to be pimping Hennessy. But the big story today, the Browns trading Joe Flacco to the Bengals. Let's bring in Fred Greetham, our good friend from the Orange and Brown Report to the Sam Bourquin Show, AM 1310 WDPN. Good afternoon, Fred. How are you this afternoon?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Good. Good to see you. Oh, boy, are we a color contrast today. I got bright red and you got bright orange on. This is good for the camera today. I love it.
I like your colors. I think it'd be more fun covering the Buckeyes because it's a disaster season if they lose 2 games. The Browns can't win 2 in a row. So that's
Fred,
it. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have that on my bingo card. I had moving on from Flacco at some point.
Sure.
But I didn't see him trading in the division to kind of give a lifeline to the Bengals. They must had to really feel good that they were getting something for a 40-year-old quarterback, because back when they had Kenny Pickett before he got hurt, when you really thought they were building this offense for mobility after you drafted, Gabriel, to have Pickett and Gabriel run those RPOs and so forth. Then Pickett gets hurt, so you go to Flacco. Before that, I thought if Flacco doesn't win the starting job, they'll probably cut him because he's a guy that can go back to his couch and somebody can always call him. He's not somebody you're going to get something for in a trade. But lo and behold, they get a 5th-round pick. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's what you used to draft Shedeur Sanders. That's what you traded. Besides DTR, you gave up a 5th-round pick to get Kenny Pickett, and then you moved him to the Raiders, and I think you got a 6th or a 7th. So then you get a 5th-round back to the Bengals. They must really – I don't think there's a lot of goodwill to the Bengals that they're trying to save their season for them. And so unless it comes back to bite them and when they play them in the final game of the year, I'm really still kind of – surprised they were able to do that. It had to have been the only offer really they could get, and the Bengals are pretty desperate at this point.
Yeah, Fred, I wonder, and we may never find out. Who knows, because they're so tight-lipped up there with everything. You never know what else was maybe on the table. But I did see that Adam Schefter tweeted out that this is the first time since 1999 the Bengals and Browns have done business with a trade. But then he goes on to say, 2017, when the Bengals tried to trade A.J. McCarron to the Browns, and then Sashi Brown didn't get the paperwork in on time, so that thing never happened. But you got to wonder, I mean, the Bengals are like, one bad break away or one whatever away from maybe Joe Flacco going in there, because Browning Nagel has not played well. And you got to think, Joe going to Cincinnati, I mean, he's got some guys to throw to now, Fred. I mean, I don't know. That would be the cherry on the top if at the last game of the year the Browns played the Bengals and there was something on the line and Joe Flacco came out on top. That would be something else.
Well, there's more to this story. We'll find out as it unfolds. Is it simply to move Shedeur up to number 2 and get a look the rest of the year at Gabriel and Sanders? Or are you going to bring Bailey Zappi? I'm sure that he's been on the practice squad, and I'm sure he'll be the 3rd quarterback. But would they put him as the backup and keep Shedeur 3rd? Or there's a number 4 lurking around out there. On the last show I was on, that was brought up. I had already thought about it, but I didn't want to go there till the host brought it there. Yep. I don't think that's where they want to go. And even one of those national, I think it was Rappaport or Schefter, tweeted last week that the window time that Watson could come back to practice, even though he's not expected to play this year, that had to have been given to him by somebody, in the Browns camp, in my opinion, to get that out there. Don't even go there that he's coming back to play. But I don't know, where things are going to go now at this point. I think it's more, hey, we drafted Sanders and Gabriel. They're going to be here. They're on rookie contracts, whether they're 2 and 3 going forward or whether they're going to be 1 and 2 going forward. I think this is, made the commitment to Gabriel. I don't think they were going back to Joe Flacco. Now this week, are you going to go into Pittsburgh with Shedeur Sanders one play away from going into the game, or would you put Zappy in as the backup this week? I don't know, but I've seen a lot of bad things over there in Pittsburgh. And, I know that Gabriel got a game in last week, but this is going to be a lion's den, so to say. They play Renegade. I've seen this team. I've been over there since 2003.
Yeah.
Except the playoff game when there's no crowd there. Everything has went crazy. Even guys like Duck Hodges figured out how to beat the Browns. And I remember a game, I don't remember who they started, but Ben Roethlisberger was injured. And the Browns knocked the starter out like on the first series, and they put Roethlisberger in the game, and he beat him. So, this is going to be a load over there for Gabriel, but they have to feel, from what they saw last week, that he's ready for it.
Fred Greetham is our guest. Orange and Brown Report. Check him out on X at Fred Greetham 9. Also, the Orange and Brown Report. Fred, I got a couple questions I want to get, and I promised I'll get you out of here in 10 minutes. I'm going to keep my word. If it really goes in the dumper Sunday, and I mean it's a bad, embarrassing loss, we commit 12 penalties for 100 yards, there's indecision, there's this, there's that. You know where I'm going here. Does Kevin Stefanski get back on that bus or plane to Cleveland or no?
That's a good question. I think he does. I don't know what the Haslams are thinking behind closed doors, but they really like, whether it's good or not, they like that Stefanski, Barry are young and they work together, and they felt like what they saw early in their regime was really trending to long-term success. It seemed to all be derailed because of the Watson trade, the way things have went since. And I think that from the way the owner spoke at the last offseason, that he's willing to give him a mulligan. I think what's helping Andrew Berry, this draft looks like the best draft, obviously, since he's been here, and maybe one of the better in Browns history. You got six, 7 guys playing, rookies, that really look like they could contribute on a long-term basis. But I've been to Pittsburgh. Usually it's the last game of the year,
right?
And they fire the coach after a loss over there. This is only, 6 games in. I'd be surprised unless they feel like they have a guy on staff like Jim Schwartz ready to take over. That would be about the only option. They didn't make a move last year when they had Mike Vrabel on staff, and I felt like unless you have somebody is an upgrade or you feel immediately is an upgrade, you don't make a move, because you end up getting the unproven coordinator dude that you hope he ends up being good. I mean, it's working out so far with the Jaguars. It's working out with a couple other teams, but sometimes you don't know what you're getting, especially when you don't have a quarterback in-house. It's not attractive to an established coach to come in. That's why New England was attractive to Mike Vrabel, because they had Drake May and he looked like the real deal.
Fred, one more and we'll get you out of here. The quarterback room, you brought it up a couple of minutes ago. Deshaun's kind of lurking. Shedeur is 2. Bailey Zappi's on the practice squad. Gabriel will get the start and continue. With Gabriel and Shedeur, if you could make some kind of sense out of this situation of, I don't believe that Kevin Stefanski wants anything to do with Shedeur. I believe everything that I've heard, that Jimmy Haslam is the one that pulled the trigger on that move to get him. I think that Kevin Stefanski's hands have kind of been tied here a little bit, and he's kind of making the best of the situation. How long do they go with Dylan, who it looks like, they're going to give him some rope here? How long will they go with him either way? If he keeps him around 500, if he gets a couple of wins, if they lose 4 out of their next 6, what does that all look like in a nutshell?
Well, I think that he's going to be the quarterback for a while. I mean, barring injury, yeah, I don't think they feel. I mean, when I spoke to Andrew Berry in the preseason, before when they had 4 quarterbacks, he kind of intimated that they looked at Sanders as a developmental quarterback, one of the bottom 5 on the roster, and there was a place for a 4th quarterback. That was when they had Pickett and Flacco. And so with that said, I don't know. We don't get to watch practice anymore. So they do extra periods with Sanders, and now he's clearly going to get some reps. I think the move at backup will tell a little bit. If they elevate Zappe ahead of Sanders to be the backup, then that'll tell you that they don't plan to play him this year, unless there's injuries or whatever. But I just go on face value. I think Gabriel is the guy they wanted. And if he doesn't get injured, he's going to be the starting quarterback unless he just falls off the cliff. But there's going to be time. I think you're going to see Sanders at some point this season, especially if they're not in a playoff hunt. The schedule lightens a little bit. Mm-hmm. I thought after this week, and I'll still say after this week because the Steelers' record and because it's in Pittsburgh, there's some winnable games. It really depends on where they're at. I mean, if they are totally out of it, if they're like 1-6, 1-7, 1-8, they'll play Gabriel and see what they have in him until they feel like we've seen enough of him. And then we'll look at Sanders to see what we have in him. That's the way I look at it. If Gabriel plays well, they may just say, let's get the whole year and then build around him next off season if they decide he's the guy. But I think they're hoping one of these 2 guys, they can catch lightning in a bottle and be the franchise quarterback. So then you don't have to spend the whole off season trying to figure out which one to draft. And you might, doing the Browns situation, win just enough games to not be able to pick, in a spot to get one. Mm-hmm. Like in other words, last year they said it was a 1 quarterback draft and you had 2. This year, if there's 3, you might have 4. It's like you just can't count on the draft. So I think they're clearly going to look at these 2 guys, see what they have.
It is the gift that keeps on giving, Cleveland Browns football. Fred Greetham, Orange and Brown Report. Check him out at Fred Greetham 9 on X. Fred, I appreciate the interview time today on short notice, and keep doing your thing, and we'll see what happens this weekend. Take it easy.
All right, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. There he goes, Fred Greetham, Orange and Brown Report. Check him out on X at Fred Greetham 9. Does a great job covering the Cleveland Browns.